Okay, thank you. Now we would like to call Dr. Ferran Alegre DVM. Are you there, Doc? Sudah masuk belum, Dr. Putra?
Udah.
Okay. Tolong di-unmute, Dok.
Udah, oke.
Just unmute. Dr. Ferran?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, of course. Good afternoon.
Selamat malam.
Wah, selamat malam. Wow. We are really surprised that you can speak bahasa ya. Wow.
Sedikit.
Sedikit. Yes, thank you for giving us the presentation of you, because now we will have the program of you called Meet Dr. Ferran. And this is the series number 1, and there will be another series of you. Since this is the first series of you, then we will have the general of your experiences, and for the next we will talk about the more practical of the exotic animals and wildlife that you are expert on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr.
Thank you very much for to let me join. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I lived last year in Indonesia. I love the country and I love the people, so it's absolutely an honor to be there talking to you.
So you have been here?
Yeah, last year I was in Borneo, in Ketapang.
Oh, Central Borneo.
Yeah, West Borneo, yeah.
Okay.
Kalimantan Barat.
Kalimantan Barat, all right. So it's the West Borneo. In what site?
With IAR.
IAR, International Animal Rescue?
Yeah, that's it. I was there like for 6 months, and then I was in the Malaysian part in Sarawak, in Kuching, for another 3 months.
Wow.
With Matang Rescue, Wildlife Rescue.
Good. And you traveled around the world, yeah?
A little bit. I would like to travel way more, but yeah, that's has been my life so far, and yeah, I'm very, very happy. So I could have done it.
Okay, that's very good. So the material that you will deliver tonight called the overview and experiences of wildlife rescue centers around the world, from dolphins and cormorants to sloths and orangutans. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So you handle the aquatic animals from the inside under the water, and also the terrestrial animals, and also the animals that fly in the sky. Wow. So you handle everything.
Yeah, I've been very lucky with the animals I work. It's the dream of every vet. When I was in the university, I was a dream, but I never thought I could really follow this career. And now, almost 12 years after, I'm very, very happy that things have been going so well. Maybe not on the on the money side, but definitely on the passion and on the happiness of liking what you do. Yeah, I've been very lucky. And yeah, sharing some of these experiences maybe can show that it's possible for all the other vets who actually wants to do it, and show a little bit of the lucky things I've seen in the last years, and maybe share some experiences. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So for the next series, we will make it worldwide. Yeah. So the Meet Dr. Ferran program will be very well known around the world. Okay. Then we would like to call Dr. Anita Septiandini. Are you there, Doc?
Hello, I am here.
Yeah. Please turn on your camera.
I'm still at the car on the way to the clinic. It's so sorry. Can you see me now? No?
Yes, of course.
Great.
Yeah, we hope you have a good signal there.
I'm not really good though, but I'm trying my best. All right. How
All
are you,
right. So
Dr.
yeah,
Bino?
for the next 30 minutes presentation. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we just had a material
Okay.
with Dr. Kambu previously, and now we will have the Dr. Ferran for his program. So are you ready
Dr.
to moderate this
Ferran.
series?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay then. For the next 30
Shall
minutes.
we start?
Pardon?
Shall we start?
Yes, of course. Yeah, for the next 30 minutes, time is yours to moderate.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Dita.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Dr. Ferran. How are you?
Hello, it's nice to see you here. Thank you very much
Hi.
for inviting me.
Oh, nice to see you. Glad to see you. Okay. So I'm gonna read a little of your background for our college here in Indonesia. Is it okay?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna start. So we are welcoming Dr. Fernando Alegre Alonso, or Dr. Ferran. He is a general practitioner certificate on exotic animals. Is it true? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he is now recently working at exotic animal veterinary clinics, FETEX, at Barcelona, Spain. And he is doing a lot of research and publication. Exactly, it's really incredible, Farhan. Good to know. And he's also, sorry, I'm on the car. It's really hard to read your CV. Okay, so he's doing a lot of research and publication, mostly on wildlife, like potential zoonotic risk and dolphins. It's really incredible. Okay, and you can start now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you
Cool.
want.
Thank you. Please, 30 minutes on your way.
Okay,
Please.
okay. Okay, so if you want, we can start. I can, Dr. B, is that okay for you? I should start sharing a screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Good. Well, thank you everyone. And this time that I will be speaking, I hope it's the first of many. If please you don't understand anything I say, let me know. Stop me anytime. Ask me any question. If you want me to speak slower or repeat anything, just let me know. This one, I didn't want to really try to explain anything technical. It was a bit more than like share another ways of working and some examples I've been lucky to be part of in the last 10, 12 years. That they are very different one to each other, very different way of rescuing animals, of working in conservation, but all of them I think we can learn, or I've learned lots of good things. So maybe there is not a lot of time to go into detail, but maybe through some examples I can share some of these very good things I've learned over the years. So basically will be about 4 places I've been lucky to work in. This is a world map. In the center, you see Spain. Here, is there a way I can show the mouse? No.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Well, I don't see it in my screen. It's okay. Well, in the center you can see Spain, and it's where I've been working now in the last year, especially through this pandemic that I couldn't go to. What was my plan? That was I was supposed to be in China now if everything would have been normal, but with the virus I decided, or we had to stay in Barcelona a bit longer. And in CRAM is the rescue center of marine animals of Barcelona, and a little bit more up in the center you see the letters SRRC. That's the Seal Rescue Center that it's in the Netherlands, in Holland. Then in the left side in America, you can see JRC is Jaguar Rescue Center. That's the place where I spent most of the time, over 5 years, being the veterinarian there, the head veterinarian. And I stopped working there 2 years ago to start going to Asia. So that's what we talked before. To the right, you see where you guys are. That's where I spent most of 2019 in IAR and Matang Wildlife Center in Sarawak. All of them, they are great centers, and they are run by very inspirational people. And maybe I don't want to go into detail. It's a bit, too long, but what I would like to share is some common things that they have been very, very inspiring for me over the years, especially learning how they started and how they developed until what they are now. Centers, rescue centers, they are not like suddenly they show up and they are perfect and they have a lot of infrastructure and a lot of X-rays and everything. That comes years after. At the beginning, normally everything starts with somebody very concerned of a local problem, like the example of the rescue center in Costa Rica. There were 2 biologists living there, and they saw that there was no one taking care of injured monkeys, injured sloths, that they were electrocuted and hit by car and had other problems. Similar thing happened in Holland or in Barcelona. There were some passionate people who saw there was a problem and there was no solution. So at the beginning, most of these places, they started with somebody realizing there was a problem, dedicating a lot of non-paid hours, dedicating a lot of effort to learn how to deal with the problem, slowly making a group of people, normally from very different areas, not just vets or biologists, but everyone has to be involved at the beginning. And then trying to work as professional as they can with the time and with the years to build what they are now, that they are absolutely professional places. It starts with a small problem, but it develops to different areas that you can solve the problem. It's not just rescuing the sick monkey or rescuing the sick seal, but also it's a very good moment to start learning about it. So collaborating with universities, with research groups, with other institutions that has different problems to learn about the situation. That's the research side that you see in the middle, and start working on the solution. And that most of the times in my experience goes through education. It's a long-term solution, but it goes through that. To the social circumstances around there, the village people near the problem, about educating everyone who can be involved in the future, so in the future can change things. And the more you know about something, the more you can actually feel it and change it later. And that together can go to specific conservation actions, which they are maybe the real tool to change something. In the example of the electrocuted monkey, okay, maybe after 5 or 10 years, you can really go into a project of changing the electric lines where everyone is involved, the government, the electric company, the local business, everyone. But that takes a lot of effort of a lot of people, but it really deals to the real end solution, right? Okay, so this is like what I thought. I think it works for most of the cases, but you can get to there through many different examples. And I just don't want to make like the theory of everything. Of course, I just want to share some examples I've been leading. So the first of them is about Netherlands. This is the map of the north of Europe, okay? In the north of Europe, there is a country called the Netherlands, Holland, and in the north of that country, there is a lot of little islands, all the ones that you see. Most of these islands, they are desertic islands where lots of seals live. They live like this. That's a normal way they live. Unfortunately, the contamination in the North Sea and Baden Sea and lots of development in the area and tourism make them even hunting during some years as well, and make them threatened, make them sick, sometimes entangled by nets, sometimes developing respiratory or parasitic problems, etc. And there was born what I think is the first, or at least the best known European Marine Wildlife Center, that is the Seal Rehabilitation Center. About over 50 years ago, this lady that you see in the picture, Lenny Hart, in the left, saw the problem and wanted to do something. So baby seals dying on the beach and just wanted to do something. She was no vet or no biologist. It's just a person who was passionate and concerned. And she learned to be surrounded by good people who help her develop a rescue center, which nowadays developed to be a very well-known and big rescue center, attending over 500 or 700 seals every year. Similar to many other centers, it goes like a workflow, like a factory. So it has stages. Most of you, I know you know about it, but with the pictures, maybe you can get an idea how this flow or workflow adapts to the seal situation. Normally at the beginning, the animals are very sick, so the vet takes care of them, and then they are put into small quarantines, like the one in the right, where they can get all the medication. They can be in dry if they need. When they feel a bit better, they have a small pool. Everyone, they are dressed like if there was virus, because they are actually lots of virus that affect the seals, and protocols, they were really high-end even 15 years ago, and now with the virus even more, but that was how they used to work there. When they feel a little bit better, they transition into intermediate pools like this, understanding that the weather conditions are very harsh over there in the winter. They can be lots of degrees under zero, way more than in Indonesia. It's a very pleasant, warm all the year round. And that's why in the left side of the picture, you can see a little roof where there is heating lamps for the night, and also you can be in warm water inside, and you can be outside when the weather allows it. A little bit after, the animals feel much better. They just need to exercise, feel stronger, eat enough, so they are in this sort of bigger pools until they are good enough to be released. These are examples of one of the most common problems they had. There is a couple of parasites that they developed in young seals that they provoke these sort of pictures. There are one of them Otostronchilus, the other is called Paraphilaroides, which they are normal in small amounts, but in young animals, probably due to contamination and many other factors, they developed a lot until they provoke secondary pneumonias, and all this blood is coughing. The lungs break and they cough a lot of blood. They cannot eat. They stay in the beach. And unfortunately, especially by the time I was there, it was the most common problem. There was hundreds of seals that came in like this. Fortunately, many of them, with the appropriate treatment, we took care of them. This is a video of the very bad breathing, how it sounds. And this video, I show it because, not just because of the breathing, but also to show that there were situations like the one that was on the video that they are overwhelming. Sometimes it happens to most of the centers that you start treating few animals, but suddenly there is an epidemic or there is some problems that suddenly you have way more work than you can handle. In this case, there were that winter almost every day coming over 6, 7, 8 seals every day coming in, and we ran out of space. We had to use showers like in the video, and we transformed the laboratory into quarantines. We transformed offices into quarantines to try to solve the situation. That happened in most of the other places I know. At some point in their history, they've been overwhelmed, and you have to be resolutive and try to find solutions. One of the things also I learned from a good thing I learned is that, okay, you cannot just say, no, I'm sorry, just let it die. Okay, we can find solutions. If we can't not, we can ask for help, we can find other solutions and solve the momentary problem. These are working on the rehabilitation of the center. I want to like to show this picture on the right side because the man you see on the right is called Mustafa, and he was my mentor for many years, and unfortunately he passed away. And is something I wanted to recognize his efforts. He was a very great wildlife veterinarian. And finally, the release. That's a happy moment that animals can go back to the sea. Here, it's a picture that is not just the release, but also one way that can be very different options. But okay, that's a very nice work, but how you pay for this work? You need to pay for facilities, for the food, for everything. There is many ways of doing that. Some rescue centers use donations. Some rescue centers use bigger companies who actually pay for it. Some of them use the public who actually can be in the rescue center and see the work. In this case, in the Netherlands, they used a system of donations. It's a very well-known center in Holland that had good publicity and a lot of network that people could actually donate and how you say the word, like, well, every year for every seal, and then they were allowed to be in the release. So they, like these kids that you see in the picture, they were allowed to come and see their seals that they actually paid for it for the last months, and see how they can go back to the wild. Many other ways of doing it. All of them has good things and bad things. And now, while the virus is hitting hard to all the rescue centers, it's a very critical moment. Basically because most of these centers came or worked from people who actually visited the place and other people who had extra money, and now not a lot of people has this extra money, and not a lot of people can travel and visit the place. So I know of many rescue centers who are having a very hard time at the moment, and they have to reinvent themselves or even disappear. Okay, so far, good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we already saw one option. Now we will pass through the other rescue center that is called CRAM, the Barcelona Marine Rescue Center. This place was started by my dad, by my father, in '94. He started it also by maybe a coincidence. He was working in a small town where I'm from, near Barcelona in 1994, when there was a big dolphin epidemic called morbillivirus. This morbillivirus affected thousands and thousands of dolphins in 1994, and a big percentage of them died. So suddenly there was dozens and dozens of dead dolphins or agonizing animals stranding to the beach of the coast of Spain, France, and the Mediterranean Sea. And there was no one who could take care of them. They just died there. At that time, university and some institutions started investigating about it, but nobody took care of the animal itself, of the individual. There it comes one of the other things that I've learned, or at least I apply for myself. If you see it from above, from a global point of view, giving a good death or a rehabilitation for 1, 2, or 5, or 10 dolphins in this epidemic, it has no effect on the population at all. If you rescue it and release it or not, the population will be exactly the same. It's not significant. So why to do it? Well, I want to believe that every individual matters. So the empathy that some of us feel for them, it's maybe one of the reasons for this work. Not everyone feels the same, but I believe that doing it, it's important also for the education side, to give example. Many people, maybe they just, well, see some people working or to save a dolphin that probably will die anyway, but trying to mitigate the pain of the dolphin and doing a lot of research behind that and trying to do the best for many, many years inspired hundreds of other people who later dedicated their lives. And I think that has a lot of value. So it's not just from the population, biological, ecological point of view. I think also it's important to do the best you can in every moment. And yeah, it will have good consequences under my point of view. Okay, so in that case, it started with the epidemic, and my dad somehow convinced a local government to allow some land and some swimming pools to start taking care of them, together with sea turtles, that they also had problems. 15 or 20 years after, it developed to a very big rescue center, maybe one of the best prepared in the area about marine animals, or even in the world, depending on what kind of animals you work. It's in this beautiful location that is very near Barcelona. It has these big swimming pools with seawater, great facilities for taking care of the seals, of the sea turtles and the dolphins. Even back in the time that now not anymore like this, but had this vessel where was collaborating with other institutions for research and did other projects, not just rescue. And it developed until the day of today. As an example, I want to tip you about how it looks a rescue or an action on a stranded animal. This picture on the left is a striped dolphin that's stranded on the beach, okay? That's a very common way to see it. Somebody calls that they see a dolphin in the area. If we are lucky, the dolphin is still swimming. If the dolphin is not lucky, the animal is already on the sand. Are animals who never before has been touched by anything or being out of the water. So being on the sand is very irritating for their skin and very bad for them. Stress levels raise to sky and often die quite quickly in agony. And that moment, the rescue center developed through the years a way to try to help them. I will not go into detail, but basically the first step was trying to see if the sea allows to work on the moment on the place or not. If the sea is calm enough, so refloating the animal by expert people who know what they can do to reduce stress was the first point. Secondly, try to stabilize the animal, to try to see if the animal can hold himself, it has, well, a clinical exam of them, and also try to see if the animal can get some food. You can, at the beginning, offer some food, because if the animal can eat right away, maybe things accelerate a lot, and you can do quick stabilization and release. If not, then the things are slower and you need to start preparing everything for a longer rehabilitation. Once you set everything, we had this red floating trolley that allow us to work in the same place where the animal is stranded, and the animal could be floating or held by us. We there could take blood, give fluids, give medicines, do tests, or anything we could. Animals, when they are very weak, they couldn't maintain themselves floating. So this picture shows a bit what we had to do 24 hours for sometimes weeks. Be on calm water with them, help them holding themselves on the surface so they can breathe, to move them a little bit so the muscles doesn't restrain too strong, and try to stabilize them from them, giving them the medicines and the fluids and the food they needed, forcing the food, etc. And this is a video of a very usual procedure we had to do. 2 people, minimum stress on low, shallow water, trying to move the animal from one person to the other and holding them there. Unfortunately, that's something you had to do for many, many days until the animal felt a bit stronger or a bit better. We could move him to the rescue center or to another facility. Okay, we have the B situation that's unfortunately way more common, that the sea doesn't allow all that. So it's rough sea, big waves. Okay, we cannot do all the nice things we were showing before. And then we try to do 3 other options. The first one, stay on the beach if we had no other option. On the dry, then is where maybe you've seen before these pictures of dolphins with a blanket over it, with waters, people throwing water on them with maybe an umbrella that makes the sun not hit so strong, that they make some holes for them flippers and they put some ice on the flippers so the temperature doesn't raise too much. Okay, that can be a very temporary solution because the animal cannot hold very long there. But if there is no other option, maybe that's something to make them feel better until something comes up. Maybe even euthanize the animal, that unfortunately in many places where you cannot have the people or the help to actually do the rest of options, maybe is the only option you have. The second one is something we sometimes did. We had already in the transportation van a swimming pool that we could build right away next in the same beach. So we quickly built a pool next to the beach. We isolated the area. We filled the swimming pool with a pump and a generator. And then we could do the same as in the last video, but in a small swimming pool on the same sand. And the third one is to move it somewhere better. A good idea that helps in many places is to have like a map of good strategic points where you can move the animal, not to a rescue center yet, but to know all the harbors that they don't use a lot, all the even private swimming pools, all the little corners or places that the sea allows to be there without waves, and maybe that will be closer than the actual rescue center if you have it, or any other permanent solution. So you can be there for a while and try to do the best you can in that place. And of course, the last one is to move it to the rescue center, but there are not many rescue centers who are able to hold dolphins or wild dolphins. So that's not so easy. But the first option I mentioned can work almost in every other country and can be a good solution. That's some pictures of what I just mentioned. The right picture is this swimming pool we managed to build in the same beach. And just that's a small video of how to take blood on the dolphins. In the zoos, you can train the animal, but in the wild, with animals that they are very weak, just restraining them, you can see there, it's enough to take some blood and do some tests. Blood work, it's actually pretty important in these situations. First, because it allows you to diagnose one of the most common diseases stranded dolphins had, that it's brucella, and also to just monitor how they are and how they evolve. It's something you can do every day, so you can see how blood values evolve from day one, and try to monitor if you are actually going somewhere or is going worse. Normally, in such a rescue, we tend to decide every 24 hours what to do. We continue another 24 hours, or we give up and we say, okay, until here, and then you proceed to euthanasia if that's the best option. That's the quick test for brucella. That is a very, very easy thing to do. You just need the reactor, Bengal rose, and it's something you can do in the same beach or whatever. That's a positive. And that's how we had the van to move animals with a small swimming pool, with a special trolley and all the equipment to move it. But unfortunately, dolphins stress so much that few hours in a van, even in good conditions, maybe they are lethal for them. So that's why we tried to choose other options. And that's picture on the app right is in the old rescue center, where we could actually, well, we brought several animals, and this arrow shows a protector of the walls, because dolphins at the beginning, they are weak, but as soon as they are a bit stronger, they could hit the walls and kill themselves. So if you are with an animal that is strong enough in a swimming pool, you have to protect the walls, or protect the animal from the walls. And the last about dolphins, that's a picture that I want to bring up because shows a little bit the evolution of what can be achieved through few years of effort. Few years ago, here in Barcelona, is those two pictures of people trying to do the best they can, but of course, they couldn't really help the animal. But using a lot of lives of people who dedicated their lives to that, learning from other people from other countries, and doing the best you can, we were able to, other people actually were able to develop a situation where you actually can take care of it. And I want to say that, of course, it's possible, but it needs a lot of effort. You cannot just wait until be perfect the day one. So be patient, be humble, and with time and effort and working as a team with people from many different backgrounds, it can happen. Okay, we finished the dolphin part. You okay? Okay. We start the third part. That is the Costa Rica Rescue Center, okay? In there is where maybe I spent, as I told you before, most of my last years, over 5 years. And I was in a point where actually I felt we could actually, do a lot of good work. I found when I arrived to Costa Rica first time, this amazing couple of people who already had a good rescue center called Jaguar Rescue Center. It's called like this, but they don't do Jaguar, they do almost everything else. The persons that you see in the upper part, the left part is Enkar, the right part is Sandro, were the couple who started the center. As in the other examples, they started just because they were there and they saw a problem. They actually decided, with no intention of opening a rescue center, to live there. Once they were living in this piece of paradise, they saw that other people started bringing them animals because they were nowhere else to bring the animals. In all the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, there was no other rescue center that could do such a thing. And they were both biologists with experience in the Zoo of Barcelona and other places, so they knew quite a lot, but yeah, they didn't have the intention. But some people brought at the beginning a baby monkey that was orphaned, then a baby ocelot, that's a wildcat, that also was injured and orphaned, then a sloth, then a possum. And of course, they took care of them. They had, fortunately for them at the time, a bigger garden wild area, and they were already in a very wild area, surrounded by forest and animals. So it was kind of in a natural way developing an amateur rescue center, and with the years it got professional, very professional. Nowadays, I would say it's my favorite place in the continent. So it's an amazing place that became very, very professional, with good equipment, good people behind it, but not losing the passion that started them, same as the other places. So where is Costa Rica? You are in the other side of the world, in Indonesia, so actually it's kind of very, very exotic place I can imagine. Is where the yellow arrow is. It's a country in the middle of the two Americas, north of Canada, south of Nicaragua. Very green country with lots of national parks, but also lots of problems. A bit closer, that's where the center is. The star, the red star, is where the rescue center is. And the red shadowy area is where the release site is. Fortunately, they managed to have a big piece of land that is actually inside a national refuge where they could have the release site. And that's where the rescue center is. I mean, it cannot get any better. It's fantastic. I know in Indonesia you have places like this. So yeah, you can imagine it's kind of similar, but just on the other side of the world. Here are a couple of pictures of this evolution. When I arrived there in 2008, 2008, their center started. I arrived there 2014. Well, at the time there was no clinic or not tools for doing anything really veterinary. In the left picture, we see how the owner, Enkar, and myself, we were attending on my first month working there, one ocelot that was very weak, and well, it had like jumped inside a farm and got hit by the farmer, was very weak with lots of broken bones and so on. By the time already they were years rescuing animals, but they used a local referral clinic to do the veterinary job. But there was no tools there or almost anything. So we were in a very small nursery trying to do the best we could. No inhalation anesthesia, not really surgical tools, but slowly the center developed quickly and effectively, fortunately, to the pictures on the right that you can see a little bit, maybe a bit more here. We built a whole new hospital with it, lots of orthopedic surgery, ultrasound, digital X-ray, everything you can ask. And it's not like that. It was a lot of effort from many people. And if you see a little bit, if you remember what we were talking a minute ago about how to fund them, okay, in Netherlands, they were using donations from private people. In here, also a little bit, but not that much. In here, it was public visits. It's a quite touristic area, so the center now is well separated into animals that cannot be released, and the rescue center and the sanctuary. But education through people who actually taught the people who came in and saw the message and saw some non-releasable animals, and we could show the work we did. It's the way they actually, mostly they were funded, plus some donations. So all that make possible that they develop to that moment, right? The center was expanding and separating the release part in that area I showed you before to some facilities really inside the forest. It's a very, very great area. Around where we lived and where we worked, there were monkeys, toucans, sloths, everything coming from everywhere. So it's a very, very natural area. Almost finishing, just to show you a little bit what kind of animals they used to have there. One of the things that happened there is that we had a lot of variety, a lot of different sorts of animals. Mammals on one side, you see it here, the statistics. Xenartrans is the most common ones we had. It means sloths, also armadillos, and anteaters, but mostly sloths that came due to electrocutions, hit by cars, poaching, etc. Also lots of monkeys, maybe not that much of sloths, but still several dozens every year. A lot of variety of birds, as you can see in the picture, a lot of variety of reptiles as well, lots of venomous snakes. Sometimes we had to go to the village and take from home and just release them, but also through poaching, especially iguanas and sea turtles that they try to hunt to take the eggs or just for the meat. That was a very common thing. One of the things I'm more proud of the time there is to see the effort behind raising orphans to release. It's difficult to raise orphans to release. Often is said that depending what animals is not possible. It not just depends on the people or the facilities, it also depends on the place you pretend to release. Of course, there are places where unfortunately there is no forest anymore, so unfortunately there is no place for release. But there we were lucky to have the appropriate place for doing that. That's the evolution of one of the many wildcats that we raise until release. That central picture is already a 2.5-year-old in the moment of release. As much as possible, we tended to monitor post-release. It's not always possible, has difficulties to be in such a dense area of forest. Satellite tracking is complicated. Radio tracking in such a humid and hilly area is also complicated. But in some animals like this, we managed to do it. And that's a small video of a few seconds of this animal called Namu. The process of learning to be wild, having pre-release areas, very naturalized areas to walk around. Okay. Some other animals, that's on the left, a kinkajou that has the typical marks of an electrocution. Burned tail, burned hand, and unfortunately, often the only thing we could do was euthanize or amputate members. But it was one of the most common problems animals had there. That's a howler monkey. That's the kind of monkey that was a bit more common over there, together with capuchins and spiders. And that's the same animal evolving from when it came full of larvae from flies, these white things, until we stabilize him. We let him grow together with other baby monkeys. We let them learn from the forest to be a monkey, and we managed to release them. Similar with the sloths, those are pre-release enclosures in the release area where they had open cages with ropes. When they were ready, for a while they had food inside. Through the ropes, they could go out to the forest, be back until they decided. That's called soft release, and to me is the ideal way of release. It's not always possible, but when possible, that's the best. Letting the animal decides when he wants actually, or he's ready to go. And if he's not ready, he knows he can be there as long as he needs. Okay, the last part, that part maybe you are more familiar. This map, I'm pretty sure I did some mistakes locating the places, or maybe I forgot some, but I did try to put together at least the places I knew of rescuing orangutans in Borneo and Sumatra. I know there are more, but that's a few of them that I knew at the and that I know now about them. The place I was lucky to work with as a volunteer for 6 months in 2019 was here in Kalimantan Barat. And then I got a job in Matang Wildlife Center in Kuching, but things didn't work well there. So in the end, I actually fly back to Spain. But I wanted to show just few slides of some good things I learned from there. Maybe you already know about it, but it's an amazing place. Maybe I would say in all the places I've been, the most professional place. The structural, the organization that they have among hundreds of people working for them, very well trained. It was impressive. The way they solve problems, I also like it very, very much. Here down to the right, it's a picture of Dr. Liz, Dr. Komara, Fitri, and Dr. Jost, that it's the veterinary advisor is the kind of the head vet or the advisor vet in there. The rest, they were all local Indonesian veterinarians. And the owner or the responsible of the project, Dr. Carmele, that probably you've heard of her. All those people, everyone in the picture, Carmele, Jost, they were very inspirational people. I was impressed to see the diagram I showed you in the beginning brought to reality. They saw a problem at the beginning of orangutans dying from of course, you know that, limited forest, they burn the forest, they don't have enough food, they pet trade, or they have a lot of problems. Unlike the Costa Rica Rescue Center, they decided to focus on that problem and try to solve it in the area of the country that there was nothing, right? And they tried to do what they did, only that, but very well done. And not just working on every individual, but working on a lot of other projects on the area in Sungayawan near Ketapang, and many other areas near the forest where the orangutans live, working on the social communities to try to educate them, help them have resources from other places, and improve the area in general. And with the animals also, it was very impressive the way everything is done. Here in the picture, there are some animals being under rehabilitation. That's same as in every other place, the first step. Then the animal needs to totally recover, pass to a second stage or third stage. And in the case of the orphans, they need to learn how to be wild. In here, I know in many other orangutan places, it's similar. They have a very large islands or places with forest where the animals, depending on the age and the condition, they can grow through the many years until they are ready to go. Every day they get veterinary checks. Every day they have been monitored by very well-trained keepers. And when they are ready to go to the release areas when it's possible, right? Part of my job there was in 2 occasions to go to this release area in the National Park TNBBR, and animals were brought there by another very well-trained group of people, were monitored every day since they made the nest until they disappear, sometimes for months or even years, following them, observing everything, noting everything they eat, everywhere they go. That's the kind of papers they use. And they had different camps where the people were there 24/7. Here in the upper left picture is myself with one of the orangutans that by the time she wasn't feeling very good because actually she got pregnant, and it was very, very great news for me that the animal got pregnant, and we did the pregnancy test with the urine back there, and now months after I know that had a beautiful baby from in the wild. So it's been a released orangutan that had a wild animal. So that's actually that the work is really happening, and that's great. And already for almost finishing, their goal, and I share it 100%, same as in the other rescue centers, is not just to save the animal. To save an orangutan, a dolphin, a monkey, or a sloth, it has a limited value, as we said before. But working to save it, basically the best way to save the forest. So they need a place to live, and without forest, doesn't matter the effort you have and the big rescue centers you have. You just need the forest, and everything should be fine if you have a protected forest. And once you have this protected forest, you can, make the rest protects itself. Once you have a very big piece of natural area, enough for the animals, there is a lot of other non-famous animals that, will benefit from it. Happens the same with marine animals in fishing-free spaces or sanctuaries. It happens almost for every animal, but unfortunately we are all destroying that nature, and that's hard to. That's a little bit my main goal is not just to save every individual, is to see them returning to a healthy home, and that's it. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Ferran. It's a very interesting presentation right there. Are you ready for the question right now?
Of course.
Cool. So there's 6 questions in a moment.
Okay.
And the first question is coming from Dr. Teresia Metalestarikahu. And the question is, what do you think about conservation in the future, like around 50 years later from now? And what will be the preparation if human population is getting higher by the time? Please.
Well, that's a very, I'm no one to answer this question. I don't know, but of course one can guess. And unfortunately, things doesn't seem that they are going better, but in some places are. As we said in the last slide, this protect the forest to save everything else. Maybe the only way to do it is controlling a little bit the overpopulation that we have in the world in very long-term view. But we will have to adapt. Humans have to adapt with their surroundings. Of course, that's a big problem for all of us that likes wildlife. But at the same time, there is millions of people dying from starvation in many countries and having diseases that have a cure and we cannot provide. So it's not just that. I think that's where the One Health concept comes together. Saving this forest will save us all, not just the animals. So unfortunately, I don't see a very bright future, but hopefully one day we will be a society as strong enough to really take actions to start really protecting our environment and maybe controlling our population too. So I don't know how to answer better, but yeah, I hope you understood.
Cool. So One Health concept is really great. So how is it, Dr. Teresia? Is it answering your question?
Yes, because I'm Meta in Yogyakarta. I ever worked in a one foreign company that having research for the future that the population will be getting higher by the time in the next 50 years later. That's by a foreign company from USA. So I love animals so much, and I really care about them, how is their future, especially for the wild animal.
Yeah, like sometimes in places, I mean, I like to see that the solutions that other countries have I've seen. Maybe a good example is Costa Rica. Maybe Panama is the neighbor of Costa Rica, and they had more or less the same environment. They should have at the original the same kind of forest, the same kind of animals, but one is very different to the other at the moment. And that's because the strategies that they have done. Protecting, making national park system very strong and making it bigger every day, and maybe focusing their industry to ecotourism and some services instead of business and animal production, poultry and cows and all that, like it happened in the other country in Panama. So it's difficult. I don't have information to actually answer properly, but maybe you cannot just extrapolate it to every country, but if the people actually decide starts prioritizing their own natural resources, protecting huge areas, and letting the population concentrate in the cities and organize properly there, and maybe refocusing the industry in a different way, maybe there is a way, but it's something, of course, I cannot know. I'm not an expert of it. This is just my guess.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Teresia. That's a nice question. Okay, so the next question is coming from Dr. Ika Prihartini. There's 3 questions from her, but I'm gonna read the 2 first. So, Dr. Ferran, what is the most challenging things that we face at our recent conservation status nowadays, mostly at this pandemic era?
Well, this pandemic area, I think is changing everything for everyone. So mostly everyone has changed their plans because of it. Now is another status quo, another way of living. And maybe we have to reinvent ourselves also in conservation. I don't see the pandemic, maybe people will kill me for that, but I don't see this pandemic as a very bad thing. I actually think it has done a lot of good things too. So it's not that bad. And at least making some industries go low, people traveling a bit less, and maybe, so, well, maybe it's a calling alert or an alert call for all of us. Of course, conservation is a huge topic, and the only part I know is not really conservation itself, but is more focused on rehabilitation and clinic and research linked to conservation. No? So all these places I've been, they are now struggling. They are now, some of them having very bad times because the way they got the money and they survived, they don't have it anymore. So, or they have it very reduced. If we can imagine that this is not going to be better in the following months, a lot of animals will die and are dying at the moment. I know some centers are getting all the animals confiscated and euthanized in places like, in some places, because people don't have the resources anymore to feed them. So reinvent the way we are working with wild animals, I think it's a priority, and I don't know what's the best way, honestly, but using these digital resources to get to more people on every local problem maybe is one way. I know, for instance, Jaguar Rescue Center before they work a lot of visitors, now of course not anymore, but now they are surviving thanks to international donations and international speeches and so on to make wealthy people concern and be able to help. So that may be one way, but it's definitely difficult. Not all the governments have the resources to just help animals, because they also need it for help the people. That maybe is more important. I don't know if I answered, but
Yeah, Dr.
It's
Dita,
cool, though. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a good idea if we, for the next series of Dr. Ferran, we can make something like charity materials, that the cases that Dr. Ferran will share us in the next series, practical, the clinical
Smart.
things,
Yeah.
then
yeah,
we
that's
put the
awesome.
charity on that series, yeah, to help.
That'd
That's
be awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
That's
is it
awesome.
okay?
Cool. Cool.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
We will set it up.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, second question, still from Dr. Rica Prihartini. There is any particular terms for us who are doing volunteer work at animal conservation facilities?
Sorry,
Particular terms.
can you repeat the question?
Sure. If one of us want to do a volunteer job at the animal rescue centers, there's any particular terms to do that?
Terms, you mean like tips?
Yes, or like maybe health check or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is many places that would use your help a lot. That will help not just where the place you go, but also will help the local animals you have. I know many of the people who is listening are trained vets, they are expert people. So that's a very good help. It's not just picking up rubbish. I'm pretty sure most of the people listening can really make a difference in a lot of places. My tip is to be there, be proactive, and be present. So maybe not just wait to, yeah, I'll send an email, reply or whatever. So maybe I've been lucky to be in all these places by have a little bit of, just go to their main gate and say, hey, I'm here. You need my help? I'm happy to help. Let's just go. And sometimes it doesn't work, but it's better to take the first step and even the second step and be patient. It's difficult for a company or a rescue center to hire anyone that they don't know. If I am a rescue center and one of our listeners send me a CV, it's difficult that I will just hire it without knowing, because it's a very specific work, because it's not just about your skills. It's good that you have skills, but it's not even the most important thing. It's probably way more important how you adapt to difficult other country situation, other culture, how you adapt to living in not nice conditions, in the middle of the forest without warm water, how you work with other people who maybe don't speak your language, how you are able to work for no money for a very long time, or little amount of money, or just accommodation and food, or stuff like this. So all these things you cannot see in a CV. So the only thing to see that maybe is to be there, spend some volunteer time, and ask a lot of questions, show your interest in, try to participate in the best way you can and be positive. Maybe that's my tip.
Cool. Okay. So the third question, still from Dr. Ika. And Dr. Ferran, did you ever joining the team for confiscation animals from the circus center before?
From circus itself, well, in Costa Rica, and we had a lot of, maybe 15-20% of our animals came from confiscation. Some of them were not circus itself, but a bad place where they use animals for touching the people and come tourists and this kind of illegal manipulation with tourists and stuff like this. Also, lots of people who had confiscation from rich, maybe narco drug people who had a lot of exotic animals in the houses. That's amazing too. Anyway, in our case, we always work with local Costa Rican animals. So we couldn't work with out of the country circus animals. For instance, a tiger. A tiger in Costa Rica, maybe they are, but we wouldn't be able to actually work with it. But I know it's a big problem, for instance, with the dancing monkeys in Indonesia, dancing bears in Southeast Asia. I didn't talk about it, but Animals Asia is, if everything goes well, the company or the rescue place I will be working with in few months, as soon as COVID allows to travel, and they do a great effort on that, on the dancing bears, and that year as well is working with that, and I know Jan in Jakarta, also at Jan Rescue Center, they do a lot of rescued monkeys from dancing and circus and so on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So the real question is how you negotiate with them.
My advice is don't negotiate, use the police and the judges for that. Because I think sometimes your heart tells you, yeah, go there and take the animal and everything. But my experience, that's a bad idea. I think your limitations are that you are who you are. You do the pressure so the local enforcement people actually can do it. You can be there to help them catching, to help them moving, but the actual negotiation has to be, in my opinion, with the help of the police.
Great.
Of course, you can gladly negotiate, like, yeah, understand that, understand the other thing, but that's hard. That's very hard, and it's dangerous. I've seen dangerous situations of people with guns, these drug dealers. We've seen a lot of that in Costa Rica, especially. It's a dangerous place sometimes, and you don't want to be involved of that. I mean, you don't want to risk your life to rescue an animal on that level, I think.
Exactly. So there you go, Dr. Rica. No negotiation needed.
No, a good example maybe in Indonesia is the story that Dr. Carmel explains in ER, how she rescued orangutan Jojo at the beginning. She saw a very poor orangutan in very, very bad conditions in a place, but she couldn't just take it. She had to wait for many, many months until had the support of the bigger company, the support of the local enforcement, the adequate facilities to rescue it, and then she did it in the end after a while. But even if your heart says, do it now, then you have to think, what happens after? Be careful with the consequences. You cannot just do it like this.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Ferran. Next question. Okay, wait a minute. From Dr. Muhammad Farhan. Good night, Dr. Ferran. I want to ask something related to poisoning. You know, there are always an evil fisherman here. He utilizes poisons or using certain chemical to fish. Have you met a case similar to this related to wildlife? And how do you deal with it?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen that maybe not by direct fishing, but for instance, in Costa Rica, I give you two examples. One of them is that there's a lot of plantations that they use a lot of fertilizers. After they do the fertilizers, the rain comes, the toxics goes to the water and kills hundreds at the same time. Unfortunately, this kind of toxicosis maybe it's not voluntary, but it's very bad and kills hundreds. In Costa Rica, we saw dolphins and manatees died from eating contaminated fish, also in the river. And in the sea, we saw one of the publications actually that we managed to achieve is proving that the fertilizers made overpopulation of puffin fish, that is a very toxic fish. And this overpopulation of fish, because of the direct consequence of the fertilization, was eaten by green turtles, and the green turtles died in hundreds when that happened. What what to do? Well, that's when talking to one of my first slides, you have to maybe involve a lot of people. Maybe you have to help prove scientifically what's going on with histopathology and toxicology. You need to get the support of probably university and institutions that actually can be strong enough to start changing the things. And then how to start changing that is difficult. Through media, through showing to the people what's going on, it's a one way. To lobbying and pressure to the companies through politicians, it's another way, but that takes decades, takes a lot of time. And it's not just the work of a rescue center, but a teamwork of a lot of different kinds of people to try to change that, to make laws to prevent that. And yeah, about the contamination, the direct contamination of fishing, like in purpose voluntarily, I know it's happening, but maybe if I've seen cases, they've been animals that unfortunately we couldn't do nothing by then. But prove it, do the test to prove it, and show it, to denounce, to actually change the things, maybe is the best one can do.
Cool. Yeah. I hope it's answering the question, yeah, Dr. Farhan. The next question is coming from Dr. Afdi. So Dr. Afdi question is, he would like to know further regarding brucellosis in dolphin. Does it have same symptoms like in cattle, and is it zoonotic?
Yeah, brucellosis was at the beginning a bit underestimated. When I started working with dolphins, we knew there were publications, it could be a problem, but we didn't know the size of the problem. In 2013, I met one doctor who helped me a lot, called Gabriel Hernandez and Rocío, that they are from Costa Rica, and that's actually why after working in Barcelona, I went to Costa Rica. They were researching on brucellosis in dolphins in Costa Rica and stranded dolphins for years. And when they came to CRAM, where I was working, they actually said, hey, do you have any positives here? And I said, I have no idea. I never tested. I don't know. We know about morbillivirus. We know about another infectious diseases, but Brucella is not something we actually have tested before. So in one of the strandings, we started testing, we saw a positive, and then we published the case. After that, there were a lot of positives all around the Mediterranean, and we saw a huge percentage of stranded dolphins, they were positive. And the symptoms is difficult to know if they are, which ones are asymptomatic and they also strand, that it can happen, or which one they are actually really making the stranding. I think it's a bit different than in cows. In cows, they make the abortions. I know in dolphins, they basically affect somehow the nervous system, and the discoordination related to the nervous system provokes the strandings. So they cannot hunt, they lose weight, and they end up stranding.
Cool. Is it answering, Dr. Afdi?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. So the next question is coming from Dr. Yuli Nugroho. His question is, there is any tips or tricks, tips and tricks exactly, for transporting the deer? Because we know that deer is really stressful when we do the transporting. And if Dr. Ferran could give him any tips and tricks for that.
Well, I'm sure there will be better expert people on that, but I will tell you my experience. In Costa Rica, we had white-tailed deer, which were very threatened in the area. Actually, it's one of the national animals of Costa Rica. We had a reproductor group in our rescue center, and we actually reproduced, raised, and released some white-tailed deer in the area. When we saw that right after release, unfortunately, they hunt them. We lost few individuals, and then we had to recapture our released deers until there was a better moment or a better location, because unfortunately people there see it as a very, very high price meat, and as soon as they know there is one deer, they will chase it and hunt it. So when in the moment of capturing and transporting, the tips is what I will tell you a little bit. I know there will be people who will maybe talk better about that, but I remember in our case, we use blow darts with ketamine medetomidine. Once the animal was sedated, one of the most important tips was to keep it with the head up, so and not moving it, so you avoid regurgitation, and then trying to keep it sedated and stabilized in the transportation. Our transportations, they were short. From the capture place, we brought it with good, strong guys, moving it from the forest to the barn and from the truck to the rescue center in total less than 2 hours. So in less than 2 hours, we could manage with the animal sedated, and that was enough. Also for capturing in our enclosures, we used some haloperidol, so just to calm the animal, and that was enough to have the animal a little bit dizzy, so you can kindly move it to the transportation, and that worked for us too. So I used in my experience these two methods, but I know there is many other experts on that which will maybe contradict what I say or say other things. So I hope I answered.
That's great. That's a great answer. You can also use Zoletil. It's safest.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question coming from Dr. Anggi. How is the safest way to rescue a monkey who are free roaming at suburban area, and what tools that you need?
Okay, that's it's a complex answer because it depends on a lot of things. Rescue monkeys is something, yeah, in this case, I've done a lot and in very different methods. Also, what I've seen used in places like in Indonesia, or I remember once I talked to a veterinarian from Hong Kong who explained how they capture it there, and I was very impressed of the system. And the way we used to do it in Costa Rica, it differs a bit. Also, it depends a lot on why you need to capture it. If it's one sick monkey, it's one thing. Normally easier if it's a bit sick because moves slower and it's easier to capture. Another different thing that it's very complicated is when it's a pack, a group of monkeys that they are not sick. It's just a family of 5 to 10 or n individuals who are just in the wrong place, and that happens a lot of times too. If it's a sick animal, which was the most common thing for us, a broken leg, a very thin animal, I don't know, an animal that you saw that was sick, wasn't moving, was alone. Of course, you have to study the place, no? If it's a suburban area but still has trees, you have to kind of foresee the movements of the animal. You might remember in many occasions we had to ask for the help of the firefighters before acting, because the firefighters, they were able to cut some branches and isolate the tree where the monkey was, because if we wouldn't have done that. If we approach or even dart from low, the animal will move to another tree, and then disappear. So try to isolate or corner the animal was kind of what you want, right? Once you are there, maybe you can use the big things of the trucks of the firefighters to have a good point for darting, and try to approach and dart. You have to consider, of course, that smaller monkeys can be dangerous because a dart in the lungs or in the belly can be very dangerous. always talking about a sick animal, maybe you can try to not dart, but just make him fall, or even make the tree fall, and to try to get it. Another story, if it's a pack or a healthy animal, then you have to consider traps. Traps are tricky because it depends on every situation. Sometimes something we have done in Costa Rica is to try to observe the animals for days to see what they do. Monkeys repeat their routines, and sometimes they just like to rest in a certain area or something like this. And then maybe you can, with time, make them used to eat something you put. Few weeks after, you can put that food inside a cage, and few weeks after, you can have most of the monkeys eating what you want inside a cage that you close and you capture them. But maybe it takes a month or 2 months or more, so it's not easy at all. Capture healthy animals is very complicated. Of course, you can try with traps that they are more direct, that try to corner them inside a house, inside a ceiling, or make them fall and try to capture them when they fall, but are difficult. If it's individual animals, from monkeys or bigger apes like orangutans, I guess darting, if you can, is the best. And once the animal is a bit weak, try to capture the best way you can. Of course, making sure that will not fall from 50 meters and die. At least have everything prepared.
Right. Monkey is really tricky and very smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
True. Okay, next question coming from Dr. Heru. Orangutan is known as critically endangered animal, as we know. How to raise an awareness about that, especially, and conservation generally, the awareness.
Yeah, that's, maybe I will directly refer on the work organizations like BOS or EIR and others are doing. I think they do what they have to do. I know in social media they do a lot of work. I know they work on social communities to try to, because are the direct involved, to try to make them understand that they are critically endangered, that they need the forest, that they are not harmful for people, etc., etc. So I think the problem is that it's not just the local surrounding people who you need to convince, it's maybe the whole population to make them understand, and then that making the social pressure enough so the politicians can actually prevent deforestation, stop some sort of culture that they do, etc. But I think they already do what the best they can, all these big organizations. So trying to learn from them and ask them for help from your own area maybe would be a good option.
Cool. Okay. Next question. You still there, Dr. Ferran?
Yeah, perfect, everything.
Okay, cool. From Dr. Andy, did we need to sedate the dolphin on transporting process, remembering they are really sensitive on stress level, etc., etc.?
Also, you would talk about two different things. One is like wild animals in rescue that you need to transportate, and also depending on the species. In our in our experience, it's not helping because with wild animal and the rehabilitation, 90% of our dolphins, they were striped dolphins. That's a very, very, very sensitive animal, which unfortunately sedation that once was tried didn't work, and animal end up not going well. Why is that? Basically because if the animal doesn't breathe, you don't have a way to force breathing, because as you know, they have the trachea moved up to the blowhole. So it's not like any other animal in the world that you can just put a tube and force breathing. So you need to be very careful. Other story is animals that they are healthy and they are moved from a zoo to another zoo, for instance. Okay, in those cases, yeah, you can sedate the animal. It's not something I have experienced, but it's something that they do since years ago, especially talking about Tursiops dolphins, gray bottlenose dolphins. Those ones are bigger, healthy, when they're healthy, and more resistant than other species of dolphins. For instance, 2 weeks ago, Barcelona Zoo sent away all their dolphins because local pressure to close the zoo for many years, finally they concluded to not have any more dolphins anymore, and they moved them to Greece. And in the transportation, they use a sedation, but it was a many-hour trip using pools and blanket and a special trolley through plane, through trucks. So it's complicated, but yeah, they were all survived under light sedation and this kind of transportation method. And yeah, it can be done.
That's great. That's great. So I missed one question from Dr. Triapsara, which wait, I need to scroll it. Okay. So he have a little question. How you and your team in Sanctuary handle and taking care of these animals properly, the wild animals properly, since we know that wild animals are not used to interact with human. Please, Dr. Ferran.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's one of the things that I would advise to everyone. When myself or anyone who has a veterinary training or biology training or anything that you think that you know how to deal with these animals, and then you arrive to the reality, and the reality is that, as colleague doctor asked, they are wild animals who never seen a person before. So if I'm in exotic animal clinic like now, I get ferret, and it's sick, and I treat it, and that's it. When I hold the ferret is a bit stressed because he's not used to it, but okay, he's used to humans anyway. When I'm in the rescue center, and after all this stressful process we just talked about, capturing a monkey, we sedate him, we blah, blah, blah. We bring the animal to the center, imagine has a broken leg. Then the animal wakes up suddenly in a completely different environment or what they are used to. They never seen a human before, they never been in a cage, they never ate the food that you are actually offering. Everything is different. Good thing is animals adapt quickly if you more or less know what to do. I mean, if you try to reduce their stress, very quickly, I think, in many cases, understand that they are getting help and they allow you to help. That's something I've seen during the years many times. This same monkey, it comes with a broken leg. At the beginning, they are very stressed. But I make sure that my voice is low, the room is dark, the cage is not just a square. It's a cozy place, soft, calm, no noises, with maybe a couple of branches he can grab on, and he can hide behind a little towel, so he's not scared all the time. And then slowly I offer a little piece of apple and a little piece of banana to the hand, offering with my hand. The animal look at you scared, but take it and eat it. So in the first day, animals, intelligence like monkey or not so intelligent as reptiles, many times adapt. Like, for instance, I'm very surprised on birds. For instance, birds, yeah, intelligent, but maybe not all of them. But very quickly, a stressed bird, if you catch him in a wrong position, they are stressed all the time. But only knowing how to surround it with a nice towel, hold it in a calm way, and restrain him enough, and then you force feed, you offer some food, and you kind of help him eating something, the animal swallows, and after the third time, they are asking for more. I mean, even eagles or animals like this in a small carry box that they never seen a human before. I take a piece of a tweezer and a piece of chicken in a very calm area. At the beginning, is very scared, but I offer it and eat it and say, okay, that's not bad. I like it. And after the second piece, they are asking for more. So I guess the tricky thing is to try to not humanize the animals, so and not treat them like pets, not treat them like dogs and cats, not like, oh, cute, 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 cute. No, no, no. And maybe try to understand that they are scared and avoid all this stress, and then they will start accepting you too. So at least it work not with every animal, but with many of them. When it doesn't work, yeah, it's a problem. There are some exceptions that it doesn't work. For instance, about owls, some owls accept captivity greatly. They just arrive, they eat from your hand the first day, and they are calm and fine. But some species of owls, they never adapt. I mean, some species of owls, even after 2 months of rehabilitation, every time they hear you, they are scared to death, and you need to just put the plate and leave, because if you try to approach or give food, they will be flying against the corner and damage themselves. So understanding every individual and every species and try to adapt to it. For instance, these other owls, you know you cannot have them in the clinic because the normal noises will scare them. Okay, you have them somewhere else in a calm area, you just put the plate there and the animal will eat. But the other species of owl, you can have them on the main place of the clinic and you can give them what they need and they will accept it properly. So I guess you have to adapt to it, and all that is learned by experience, because at the beginning you try what you think in every case, and sometimes it's like, fuck, it's not working. And the animal really is stressed, it's not eating, then you have to be a bit imaginative or try to ask to other colleagues with more experience than you and try to do the best. But one of the things I've seen in the place, sorry that I make it very long, and that one of the things that I've seen is that where you are in a place with a good team that has been doing that for years, good. But then you go to a place that they are not a good, very good, and it happens. I hope there is no one in hearing from here that is that, but sometimes it happens in rescues from government agencies that they just take the animal and put it in a room without knowing very good what they can do, and maybe in 3 days they send it to the rescue center in the best of the cases, but those 3 days they do what they can, but not very good. In these first days, just having a proper place, as I said before, a place where the animal can be hidden, just you have a cage, you put a blanket on the cage, and you have it in a place where people don't talk around, and only this and a couple more things can make a huge difference, can make the animal live or die. So it's not veterinary expertise, it's not blood test or difficult diseases, it's just trying to understand how to reduce the stress on the animal, under my point of view.
Yeah. Mistreated animals is happening everywhere, Dr. Ferran.
I know.
Yeah. So the last question, this is the last question from Dr. Sabrina. Dr. Ferran, would you share to us how did you get the opportunity to get involved in so many conservation sites around the world? And what the tips for the fresh graduate FAT to get that gold opportunity, please?
Yeah, in my case, I was, as I told before, a bit lucky to be in the right place in the right moment. I mean, I guess all comes to get the first job, because once you have the first job, everything kind of goes after that. No, once I got my first job, it's like my second job is like, okay, my first job was about seals, right? So my second job was in a group of aquariums in Spain, and they told me, okay, you know about seals, right? So just come here. And then one thing deal to the other, and the other thing deal to the other. So the first job maybe is the tricky one. And there is people who struggle for years to volunteer, but never get that job. So you have to be a bit lucky and know that it's difficult. And unfortunately, it's not easy to live from it, to get paid from it. Many people, they have their own jobs in clinics, and on the side, they help wildlife or they volunteer somewhere else, right? Maybe that's ideal. Maybe my advice is not what I did. My advice is actually do it a bit different what I did. My advice maybe be, as a veterinarian, have some experience in small animals and in the clinic, and then work somewhere else. Because you can, for instance, again, the example of me trying to hire someone. I need someone young and with not a lot of experience to help me, fine. But even if it's a recent graduate, I need that this person maybe has already spayed a couple of dogs and maybe has done sutures and done some anesthesias, and they know the basic treatments on dogs and cats. And then you can extrapolate to monkeys and say, yeah, you know, in dogs we use amoxicillin, but in monkeys it's not working well because blah, 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 and you adapt. But if you don't know anything, starting from monkeys is not good, because of course you get less monkeys than dogs. So it's not what I did, I insist, I did it wrong. I wanted to do that, but the first job with the seals came up and then everything after it. But as a general advice, I would say, if you can have 1-2 years of small animal or exotic animal or both experience, and then once there, maybe start volunteering and spending time, few months, if possible, not volunteer 3 weeks, but if you volunteer 2-3 months with one of the many good rescue centers around the world, and then slowly get experience, start knowing people, would be the best. But a base on small animal clinic, I think it's very good advice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferran. That's the question at hand. So I'm gonna giving back to Dr. Dino as the host here.
Yes, thank you, Dr.
Thank
But
you.
I do still wonder how did you guys meet before?
Please don't. Okay, no question.
It's not a
No,
question.
what?
It's just, how did you guys meet?
You have to ask again. Sorry, the internet was cut.
How did you, Dr. Ferran, meet Dr. Dita? Because you know each other, yeah?
Well, actually, we haven't met in person yet, but actually, Dr. Dita was the person, one of the people who helped me more before going to Indonesia. I was working in Costa Rica, and somehow I think I started following her in Instagram, and then we started talking. We came along very good. I really liked what she was doing, and then she also kind of liked what I was doing in Costa Rica while she was working with the tigers in Sumatra, and then we started talking. We never met, but she helped me a lot. That much that actually she was the one who gave me the email, if I remember okay, from Dr. Carmele from IAR. And after that, I contact her, and then everything came. But yeah, she was my first Indonesian step. And I'm very, very thankful for Dr. Dita. And I think even if we haven't met, she's become a good friend.
That's sweet. Ferran, that's too
Wow.
detailed, isn't it?
I
Dino love it. Dino love
I
it.
never thought about this. Well, so I thought you have met before, but you guys haven't yet.
Not yet.
But we still hope that we can meet each other in Indonesia. So let me ask now.
Sure.
Yeah,
There we
if
go.
Dr. Ferran go to Indonesia, and we will make a training, something like that. Okay, since the time is up already, it's already late, like 15 minutes, but we still want to know what will you deliver to us, Dr. Ferran, for your next series, because it's gonna be the clinical, or maybe the participants here can give you a suggestion or advice what kind of animal that you want Dr. Ferran to present.
Sure, I
You
don't
can get in the room.
I mean, among the animals that we've been talking today, maybe we can focus on one of them. Sea turtles, dolphins, tropical animals of Costa Rica, seals, exotic animals maybe, and we can try to work on that. And there are some things that I already have the presentation kind of done, so it will be easier for me. There are some other topics that if you ask me, then I will need some work to put on and spend some more time to prepare. But I guess almost anything we can try to talk. If you ask me something I'm not really knowing a lot, then I would tell you that and try to choose something else.
Okay, so there are suggestions like seal and marine mammals maybe from Andy. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be the advice that you can consider to make for your next presentation.
Yeah, or we might remember Dita mention about turtles, could be about turtles too, like both exotic pet turtles and some sea turtles. And yeah, marine animals like only focus, or yeah, some about primates as well if you want, or some exotic small kind of animals from Costa Rica. Maybe, yeah, like something like this.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna make it specific and deeper, yeah, about the clinical or the disease topics of each kind of animals, from underwater and up into the
Also,
sky.
if you want, I remember now about birds also. Rescued birds can be too. So,
Yes, we want. Yeah.
okay,
So
excellent.
there's gonna be like 100 series of your program.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I
thank
hope
you
you're
very,
ready.
very much, Dr. B. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be there with you, and to everyone who is listening. So a big hug to everyone, and anything you need. I think you know how to contact me, so anyone can contact me, no problem. I'll be happy to answer any question, or if I say something wrong, also we can discuss that, no problem.
And if you look at your Instagram account, there are gonna be many Indonesian veterinarians already followed you and mention you on their stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So welcome. You're well known now in Indonesia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Okay, thank you very much. That's all we can deliver to you from Dr. Ferran, the vet that travels around the world, and he's gonna be with us in another series, talking about the exotic and wild animals. And thank you also to Dr. Dita, that will be the permanent moderator of the Ferran series. Yeah, I hope you get
Nice,
to.
eh?
Okay, thank you very much also to all participants, and we will set up for another series of Dr. Ferran, the series number 2. Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about the charity that we think that is gonna be executed over the world. Thank you once again, Dr. Ferran, Dr. Gitan,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and
Bye bye.
nice weekend.
Bye.
Thank you so much.